Hi, everyone. I'll give you a moment to connect to sound. Hello and welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 1145th New Social Environment. I'm Chloe Stagaman, Director of Programs here at the Rail, and I have the extreme privilege to be your MC today for a conversation featuring Calida Rawles and Allison Glenn. And now I'll introduce today's guest and host. The paintings of Calida Rawles merge hyper-realism with poetic abstraction. Situating her subjects in dynamic spaces, her recent work employs water as a vital, organic, multifaceted material and historically charged space. Ranging from buoyant and ebullient to submerged and mysterious, black bodies float in exquisitely rendered submarine landscapes of bubbles, ripples, refracted light, and expanses of blue. For the artist, water signifies both physical and spiritual healing, as well as historical trauma and racial exclusion. She uses this complicated duality as a means to envision a new space for Black healing and to reimagine her subjects beyond racialized tropes. And our host today, Allison Glenn, is a New York-based curator and writer focusing on the intersection of art and public space through public art and special projects, biennials, and major new commissions by a wide range of contemporary artists. We are so lucky to have Allison as a contributor to the Brooklyn Rail, and she's also the artistic director of The Shepherd, a 3.5-acre arts campus, part of the newly christened Little Village Cultural District in Detroit. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Allison to get us started. Sorry, Allison. Actually, I'm going to start us off by sharing the first minute of We Gonna Swim, which is a 3-channel video installation that's currently on view at Perez Art Museum in Miami. So we're going to start with this video.
They building, man, I feel like, man, Florida ain't built for this. This ain't no New York, to be honest with you. And that's all they're doing. They building all these high rises like South Beach, over time. Like, we on the edge of the world.
Okay, that's actually the hard part. Ready? Okay. 1, 2, go. Okay. That was a good deal. That was a big kid. Dip. You got this. Yeah, that's how I be when it's real cold.
Does everyone swim?
Yes. If I'm honest, I learned how to swim last year.
I got you. I've been wanting to float for so many years, but it just don't work.
And I always come back over time. I don't know how I end up always back over time.
Oh.
It's down here in 9 feet. 9 feet? Oh no. I can drown. They say turtle.
Look at the sky over your eyes. Look at the sky and let the sky be your focus. Make sure you're breathing.
Over town. That's what.
Thank you so much for that, Chloe. And thank you and the Brooklyn Rail for inviting me to be in dialogue with the brilliant Calida Rawles. Calida, with wildfires causing such devastation in Los Angeles, it's quite a time for us to talk about water. And there's so many places we can begin this dialogue on water as it relates to the Black experience within the United States. From the Middle Passage, the Drexian myth, to restrictions on access to swimming pools and beaches due to histories of segregation and lack of access to clean drinking water, as we've seen in Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi. Water holds such a weight. So I think it's a great place for us to start this dialogue with you.
Share, please, how water came to be such a central theme for your work.
Well, water started really for me doing like a recreational sport of swimming, just learning how to swim. And once I was on that journey of learning how to swim and being in the pool and seeing how the light hits the water, it became such a majestic vision for me. Like it looked so beautiful. I was like, I wanted to capture that. And not only that, but also capture the feeling I had when I left the water, how so much of heaviness and stress in my life felt lighter when I got out of the pool, right? Was in the water for a bit. And then it started seeping into my mind as something to create as or join into my practice of making. And then I just started researching about water and thinking about it more, about it and its connection to the Black experience, to the human experience and spirituality, or even the concept of water memory theory. And I just started going down that rabbit hole and wanting to capture it, even just like technically just painting water, just it seems like something so hard, something so beautiful, and it was like a challenge that I wanted to get. And also seeing water, and when you see bodies in waters, images in water, it abstracts it, and it became exciting to me for something for me to push in my natural being. I'm such a naturally hyper-realistic kind of painter, but abstraction is something that I really enjoy, and I could find both in the water.
I love that. Tell us about water memory. I'm not familiar with that theory.
Well, water memory theory is just like, just imagine a stream of some sort. If you put something at the top of a stream, the water goes down. At the bottom of the stream, um, particles of whatever was in there would be at the bottom of the stream, but not at the top, right? So whatever is passed through water, some of the elements of it becomes a part of that water. And thinking how that in itself impacts us every day, you know, and even just how water, everything is recycled, like the water doesn't leave the earth. Thinking that we're always like, even if you go into a dark space of like middle passage, the bodies that were put in the water are recycled around. They're always with us. And we're keeping it. It's a holding of our own memories and our own DNA. It's constant and through us.
That's really beautiful and poetic. Those that chose water, especially thinking about them always being with us.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Well, congratulations on Away with the Tides, which is your current solo exhibition at the Perez Art Museum in Miami. The film we just saw, the excerpt, is called We Gonna Swim. It's a stunningly immersive three-channel video. And as we saw, the film opens with a hazy, diffuse blue landscape and this just seductively gleeful sounds of laughter. That is really what kind of arrested me in the beginning of seeing this film was the experience of joy in water. The voiceover narrative and the reflections from the people of Overtown about their communities, this touching portrayal feels so sensitive and so intimate. So the big question for me is, how did you develop this body of work? How did you work with this community? And is this the first time that you've worked site specifically depicting community in this way?
Yes, this is the first time I worked with a community or created a body of work about and for a community. Usually it's a call and response to my own emotions, like certain oblivion at Lehman Maupin was me very much thinking of how I felt and what I felt was needed in a time when Roe was overturned. I felt like it was like our country is in this dark space. I need young women and girls to unite. Like I was thinking of that and what I wanted to convey. With Away with the Tides, I went to Miami, spent some time there after I had a great conversation with Maritza Lacoyo, the curator there. We were saying we wanted to work together. And I thought of, we both spoke before even the show about creating something that is a part of the Miami community. I was very interested in Overtown for a lot of different reasons. One, when I thought of Miami as an outsider, I go as a vacation. It was something, and I go to the Strip. I thought of Miami in this way, but I wanted to learn more and more or less of, I don't hear much about the Black community. It just from California where I am, I was like, where are they? And with the political times, and I'm reading about Miami, in through the newspaper sometimes about, well, at the time when I created the show, I was struck by what was happening with AP. Black history wasn't going to be taught for some reason, books being banned and things like that. And I was thinking, what do Black people in Miami feel right now? That kept circling in my head. I don't see reporting on that. Their community, Black history not being taught there or being recognized. I never saw the article from their perspective of how does that feel from people that are many generations in Florida, built the city from the railroads from the beginning, and their voice of what was happening there, I didn't see. And so when I had an opportunity to go to Miami and learn about specific areas, I learned about Overtown and was struck by a community that was once considered the second Harlem of the South, and how the Federal Highway Act that Eisenhower put in place went right through the middle of a very thriving community that had 300 businesses, that was doing well, that and if you went to Florida where everyone, people went to stay with restaurants and, like I said, businesses, and how the Federal Highway Act, which happened in so many major urban cities or across the country, they were placed directly in people of color, communities of color that were thriving, like on purpose. And so when I saw on the news, when people were saying that highways, can't be racist, there's no reason to try to change the laws there with that, I was like, no, they can be. This is systematic. This is systematic racism. And I wanted it, that was charging me, But then going to Overtown, meeting the people, seeing their love for a community that that has changed so much over the years, but yet still having pride of their community, loving being Floridians, loving Miami and who they are. I wanted to create something that honors and respects the community, but also shows that they're still there. It's not like they are gone. And I don't know. I kept thinking of that. And I kept thinking of how through much of the work, there's a lot of crosses or like these shapes that I thought of echoing the highway or the bodies fractured, thinking of the community being separated and broken apart. And these pieces that are left and people trying to feel whole. And so since I usually make works thinking of how I feel, I had to create works that I felt like they would feel prideful in seeing themselves. And usually as an artist, you try not to think about your audience so much. Like I want to please my audience. because then that kind of takes away sometimes of your own expression if you're thinking about how other people think about you, in any way. You're like, how do they think about me? You're going to go in there and be, insecure. But I wanted to keep them in mind, and I usually don't do that. I usually just paint like, this is what I want to do, and I hope people like it. But I kept going back and forth in decisions on what I was going to paint, thinking of some people from Overtown going in and feeling like they see themselves and that I could see them.
Yeah, it hits differently when you're working with a community that's going to come see the work. It's just a completely different experience. So, what was the first step? Did you know someone in the community, and how did you work with the your sitters to capture them?
You know what? It was so crazy. Like, just serendipitous it is. I was talking with my husband about the doing this, and he's found out his cousin worked at the Overtown Community Center. So I worked with Danny, and she helped me talk to find models and begin my, I guess, model search. Um, Gave me so much information from someone that's walking the pavement and knew the people there. And we took photo shoots. We did a photo shoot of people when I got to Miami. Um, well, first it was a casting. She found some of the models, and then we had to whittle people down to who I thought represented a diverse age group, um, and could represent the community in a certain way. And then when I was there, I was able to not only do my regular shoot. It was one of the largest shoots I've done. It was over like within over 2 weeks, many days reshooting, because which I did not, I'm so used to this Cali sun. I'm pretty spoiled by it. Miami is very cloudy sometimes. It comes in, you don't know when it's going to happen through the day. And that was impacting the light in the water, because I shoot people live in the pool. And that was something to recognize and experience and think about. We shot in the Dixon Pool. That was an historic pool in Overtown, and then Virginia Key Beach. So we did 2 shoots and over days and multiple days, and it was a learning experience. But I did feel and understand the waters of Miami. The pool was very, blue like pools are, but that Miami water is green. And that was beautiful and fun to paint a different color palette and think of their water, and take people that are from the community to these spaces, talk to them about it, get their voices, understand how they, their relationship to water, and everyone has a different one. But it was interesting to see how that beach was very close to the Overtown community, but a lot of people now did not feel like it's still theirs or have access like it once did to the beach. And trying to understand and think about that, how close we could be to something and still keep marginalized into these borders that has been created subconsciously or consciously.
So poetic. Yeah. And so what I'm hearing you say is that you had built-in trust because Danny knew people. And I think
Yeah.
that's a key thing to stress around this kind of work, right? Is the trust that is built and the kind of like, I don't know if sovereignty is the word, but the kind of the respect you give to the individual to determine how they want to be represented. And I'm sure I can imagine just in looking at these paintings that a lot of these conversations, either they were had or they were things you were thinking about while photographing your sitters. I read somewhere that you had a lifeguard on
I
hand.
did.
Did everyone know how to swim, all of your sitters?
No, no. There's a woman, Simone, that I have brought with me to a lot of my shoots to help, because that was also a process that I've come to expect. I'll ask people, can you swim? And they will say, yes. Then we get to the pool and they say, I can swim, but I don't want to put my face in the water and I can't float. And I'll say, okay, you know, so the first couple hours is about getting comfortable in the water, you know? Um, and so when I went, even though I was talking to them on the phone, ask them how comfortable in the water, I wasn't going to go and take anyone in the ocean or anything with a limited time period that I had to go in. So Simone flew to Florida with me. We had hours in the beginning, or even a couple days, to just get people a little bit more comfortable so I can get them in natural states, because, you know, water's moving, splashing, if things, you know, it makes you stop. There's a lot of stop start. There's a lot of like, the clouds are coming, just wait. There's a lot, it takes a minute to capture moments. And, you know, not all of the pieces are one-to-one. It's not like I'm painting exactly the photo. I can take like sometimes 10 or 15 and merge them together and think about it, or play things, but I'm trying to capture one moment that looks like it's supernatural or done in one shot. And sometimes I can get it, you know, if I'm taking like 400 or 500 things, I found something, I was like, I got it, I got this one moment, you know, and, you know, I get excited about that too.
Yeah, the calmness and serenity seen on this sitter's face is just, I'm sure it was about 500 images.
Yes, there's like a lot like this. You know? But yes, and that's what I'm almost trying to capture, this agency in the water, in this element that has been, that we have a very interesting relationship with, you know,
You want to
water
talk
itself.
about
I think if I say just largely, if I would say about the Black community and their relationship with water, there's a stereotype that we can't swim. But there's also a lot of truth in some stereotypes, where the lack of access to water, with, you know, segregated pools, or what happened with segregation laws, where my mother and my father don't know how to swim. They weren't going to take us swimming, you know, and so I didn't learn how to swim until I was later on in life. And I find that is very common for some of us. And then, so with that, there's a lot of fear. And then there's also the relationship with the Black community with church. You think of water with a baptism. There is, you know, certain cultural connections to water. And with these two forms of relationship with water, with it being like something that is something connected to the spirit, at the same time something that is dangerous and scary, it makes a very interesting concept about water itself when you put the Black body inside water. But in general, from all of my different shows I've had when I was painting in this element, which I feel like I'm just beginning to explore. There's so many types of water and relationships and history and connection to that with the average American or people in the world. Everyone has a different relationship to it, and it becomes more of a Rorschach test. When someone talks to me about water, when they see it, no matter what, if people have an innate fear or did not grow up comfortably in water, they always see my subjects drowning. They'll talk to me and say, oh man, it could be, they could, you know, or or it's like, oh man, I have such a fear of it. Looking at your pieces, I no longer feel so frightened. I want to try it. I want to swim, because they can see themselves in a space that is comfortable. And that feels good, that I'm even giving some of that to agency, to something that is one of our natural elements. Like, it's so much of the earth is made of water. It is such a beautiful, we need water. We're made up of water. And it's such a freeing thing if fear isn't totally and set in your DNA with it, but people come with stories of relationships with people that have drowned and getting through that. But then also, there are people that were like, I swam all my life. It felt so good. And when they see it, it gives them, like, it brings back a memory, a beautiful memory. And I'm happy to have that too, and just have all those conversations and us relate to it.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking, I was thinking about something you ended up getting to, which is that we are water, right? And I was thinking, why are we so afraid of ourselves? You
That's
know,
true. Yeah, we're made up of water, and we need water. We have to drink it every day. Hopefully everyone's drinking it. And then but at the same time, it's a resource that is, some people don't have access to clean water. And what does that mean? And what is that saying about us that we have to buy water?
why are we paying for water?
I don't know.
I mean, I
It
have
should
this,
be.
I don't want to take us on a tangent, but why are we paying
Yeah.
for water and why do we pay for food when it
Yeah.
grows? You know, it's like
Yeah.
um that'll be saved for our podcast. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Of how it should be.
How life should be.
How life should
Lita
be
and
is its
Allison.
own. Yes, we could go on and on all different subjects with that.
Let's come back to the work. So you kind of touched on this, but I was curious about the departure that this body of work has with your recent solo exhibition at Lehman Maupin, which I had the pleasure of also seeing. And there was a sense of darkness to the paintings, evocative of that current political moment. What themes does Away with the Tide carry? And perhaps you can talk us through one or two artworks specifically.
Um, I mean, I think all my work has perseverance at its core, you know? Um, but with Away with the Tides, it was thinking of the community as a whole. This piece here that's up, Release What I Will Not Give. Um, well, compositionally, I loved it because the shadow is the center of the piece, and the shadow self, made me think a little bit about that in the spirit. And what's really interesting, just technically with water, like on land, your shadow is connected to you. On water, it's separated, and you can see it as a separate form. And I just think that's basically cool sometimes. But then just thinking of with an odd orientation that the body looks like it's lifted and separated from it, and this, I don't know, like just thinking of someone trying to grab that spirit or grab her, or um this give and take with a hand that comes. So I was playing with all of that in the composition, and then like the play with the water and the grooves inside of this, like, I don't know, I can just start imagining and pushing shapes in some way where it feels like there's this portal going around, and I enjoyed playing with that. But that's just on a painting and composition way. But when I thought of meeting this model that I used here, she was a part of the Overtown dance community, and I think she was very eloquent in the water. Painting dancers is always heavenly because they have such control of their body. She was this beautiful woman, and I just captured this moment where she just felt like she was floating and above and going through something or moving through. And so I wanted to get that and thinking of that separation that happens, and Overtown itself.
That's beautiful. I hadn't thought about the shadow being distinctly disconnected to the body. Next time I swim, I'm going to have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I
So,
love that. I was always check that out. I was like, it's like a separate being,
yeah,
or shape, but at all otherwise it's always connected. And I just love that little
it's
play, things that happen.
like that water memory theory. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just am thinking about the water memory theory that you just kind of shared with us, and this idea of holding the memory of those that chose water, right? and
Mhm.
how that lives within us and these kinds of like glimmers or these
Yeah.
glimpses.
Yes.
Okay, so returning to the film,
Mm.
um, what I thought was really, there's many things I thought that were smart about this, but one in particular was the way that you encapsulated these archival depictions of urban planning and development of highways that you mentioned earlier on in our talk. Um, as we all hopefully know, this highway plan really plowed through historically Black neighborhoods in the country. And the result was disenfranchising businesses, people, and infrastructure. And in this film, you get to this, and you get to this from a very personal perspective where your the voiceover is a firsthand account of community members. Did you have a vision for this film before you created it? And where did you source the archival footage?
I had no vision before we created it. I worked with a wonderful documentarian filmmaker, Laura Brownson. So she was such a pivotal force in helping find the source material and us going through the whole process together. We got the footage from Wolfson Archival and Virginia Key Beach. What was it? Virginia Key Beach Park Trust and Getty Images. But together we were looking for really great footage that not only spoke to the film as a whole, but like you said, like to what happened to the community. Um, and I'm really sorry. Say the question one more time because now I just lost it. I got that answer, the last part, but not the first.
Yes. Well, it was, did you have the vision? You said no, you didn't.
No, yeah, did not have the vision. Well, that was a short answer. But when I spoke to my friend Laura, I knew her before. It's like I knew her for years. She did the film, the Rachel Dolezal documentary. And when I saw that, what I loved about that piece was that I felt like it was balanced, very balanced in how it was depicted. And with my work, like I've discussed, I'm really into the dichotomy of the beauty of water and the scariness and the dark sides of it. And that balance is what I want to always convey, that life is also beautiful and a struggle and hard. And it's sometimes the most relaxing, spiritual thing. And I wanted to show the beauty of the community, the love and the energy, but also the hard moments. And when I told Laura about the project that I was going down there, I had this shoot, I was going to do these things. She was like, "What if I send like a film crew? Let's see what let's see what this is. I don't know, but I'll help and send something." And I was like, "Great." And so while I was there, I also had a film crew filming me, filming in my usual thing, which was very hard to do because I have my steady regular setup. But then it was like me thinking of these cameras and also thinking of what they're shooting and kind of directing them on. They had a natural instinct too of what to shoot because we went down there thinking, we don't know what this is going to be yet, but just film as much as possible. I want to talk to people. I created these questions off the cuff, of what I wanted each person to share with me of their history and relationship with Overtown. However, I didn't know exactly what this was going to carve into. Was it going to be a documentary or was it going to be a fine art piece? And I was trying to like get them to get all of that, all of the elements until we looked at it when we got back and said, what do we have here? I love these immersive videos that I've seen before, and I wanted people to almost feel like they could be in a pool. I wanted, especially for those that don't swim, have never been underwater and looked at things underwater before. It was very important for me to people feel like they could possibly, when they sit there, feel overwhelmed too, because you are overwhelmed in water. Like It's sometimes like disorienting, and all of those things come to play. And there's a level of trust that happens there. Like you could flip upside down and you're feeling, like you can't breathe underwater. So you have to trust in yourself that you'll come to the surface and it's going to be okay. And so some of that came into play in the thoughts of how I wanted people to feel in a small space that is overwhelming, and see how the water, yes, like when you're underwater, it looks murky. It's not clear. It's these bubbles are coming up, and those bubbles are so beautiful, just all of that, because you're looking at oxygen go up, and there's just these little elements that I wanted to make sure we're seeing.
Water is life, like everything all the words that you're using to describe this process feel like the experience of living.
I hope, yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I want it to be that way because that's what it is. Like I am scared all the time, but I've got to have like faith, I'm not like religious, but I am spiritual. I've got to believe this is for something. And this is something larger than myself. And that lets me breathe.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the water, I feel that way. Like I can get tense up, and that's when you drown. And it's when you relax and you let the water bring you to the surface is when you can breathe. And I try to think of that every day.
So poetic. I'm reading a book right now that an artist sent to me, and I feel like, artists always point me in such incredible directions. So it's a general thank you to all of you. It's this book called
Undrown.
Undrowned, Black Feminist
Um,
Lessons from Marine Mammals.
okay.
It's written by Alexis Pauline Gumbs with a foreword by Adrienne Marie Brown, and it talks specifically about dolphins and the many different varieties of dolphins, many different species, and how like dolphin fins and the kind of physicality of the mammal is a metaphor for humanness or like an embodied experience. There's some really interesting just parallels there that I see between your work and this writing. I'll drop it in the chat when we get to the Q&A so folks can kind of look it up on their own if they're interested.
Yeah, I'd love to read it. I'd love
It's
to read it.
so good.
Okay.
Well, my last question for you today is really kind of are your contemporaries, right? Like the conversation that you're having with other artists. And are there particular artists that you look to, are inspired by, artists you're in dialogue with?
Hmm. You know what? I was thinking about that, like Ayanna Jackson. Did you see her work at Smithsonian? We were in class together. So I think it was ironic that we both have like a little water connection there. I think her work is very powerful. Um, and then there's Lorna Simpson. And then like I love Anna Mendieta. I mean, I'm not in dialogue with her, but it's just something that I think of, the relationship with nature and um, I don't know. I've always been an Adrian Piper fan too. But then like if you go into literature, um, Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sower is just so scary right now, especially
Everyone
in the
has to read
fires.
that. Like everyone needs to be reading Parable of the Sower right now.
I mean, but it'll depress you. I don't know. It's like, do you need it's very prophetic, but at the same time, yes, it's like I was starting to look at lines from it, because I was thinking about us reading something in a certain way. And I was looking up some Octavia Butler, and I was like, I don't know. I want people to all read it or know about it, but I don't want people to get depressed by it, because we have enough darkness right now. I think we need, I don't know, but yes, I do believe it's a good resource to say someone was saying this way before it started to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally hear your point because you could just open the New York Times and be reading Parable, right? And if
Yes.
like, I think what I take away from this is like the collective care, right? Like I'm so impressed by us as just regular people, non-governmental entities, non-municipal entities who have given of our time, our resource, our labor, our money to support the communities that have been impacted by the wildfires in Los Angeles. And I think that this is indicative of what we're going to need and how we're going to need to be moving in the world because climate catastrophe is upon us. Our government is not doing the things it should be doing, and it's really up to us. And so I see that book as like a kind of resource, right? And it's like, yes, if you want to be depressed, just open the Times or the Washington Post or whatever. You can feel forlorn. But if you see it as a kind of guidebook for how we come together, perhaps
Yes.
offer something else.
Yeah, and she talks about diversity and how important it is to have diversity and adapt to change, which we're seeing. There are some moments from it for sure. And I was, yeah, thinking about the fires here and how she talks about it. And then there was even an explanation in the book of like why people were setting fires
Right.
in that she wrote about of people's, wanting almost to be seen, and they're frustrated and don't have trust in the government, and in their frustration they're lighting these fires and thinking about some of that beyond what naturally happened with the fires. And then there's some people being arrested right now for lighting fires. I was like, oh, she's telling me I needed to reread those parts of her books to understand, because I'm like, why are they doing that? And she explains it in the book, and she talks through how people are starting to distrust the government and why they're distrusting the government. And yes, how we're going to have to come together as communities and have strong, not only just like community ties, but what is the word? We need integrity,
Yeah.
and we need, um, yeah, people to care for one another and not just be for the self. And that's how we'll survive. And she says that over and over, of just helping those that helping others, and what that does to not only the soul but also for the entire community. you know
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's up to us. And we have enough. It's up to us. We have enough. And hopefully this gives us a kind of platform for a new way forward.
yes, yes, for sure.
Alita, before we move into Q&A, are there any kind of final thoughts or words or ideas you'd like to share with us?
um should I read that poem, or just say in general final thoughts?
In general, I think the
In
poem could.
general. Oh, okay, that's last. Okay. Oh, sorry, did I give it away? um I don't know, just that I would say breathe, meditate, take care of yourself. Self-care is going to be really important. Not giving up, believing that we could persevere through anything, that there is going to be change. We can't hold on to what it used to be, how it should be. We have to say this is how it is and how we're going to help each other. And I think if we keep, finding like-minded people, it's going to be really important. That's more important than trying to convince others to think like us. We have to find our tribes and work together with them to help one another. We can get through anything. Now, I got to tell that to myself, so I'm saying it to y'all.
Thank you so much, Calida and Allison, for this just completely luminous conversation. It's been such a pleasure to listen to. I'm going to moderate a Q&A now. I've got some questions ready to go, and I encourage those of you in the audience who have questions to submit them at the link in the chat, and we'll turn to you next. The first question is from Tabitha, and Tabitha, I'm going to give you the chance to unmute to ask if you're on camera. Let's see. I don't see you, Tabitha, so I'm going to ask it on your behalf. It's I've been printing and making tapestries at Magnolia Editions in Oakland. I saw your tapestry hanging on the wall. Could you talk a little about translating your paintings to tapestries? What were your reasons for wanting to turn from a canvas to a tapestry, and how do you feel about the results?
Well, I love Magnolia. Uh, it was a great experience to do, like to see my work in a different way. And the reason it became, well, with Magnolia, I'm working with that amazing print house, if you call it that. They're artists. And it was like a collaborative process of looking at my work and thinking of ways to push it in another way and medium. Um, and I don't know, it was just really fun to explore something new. I think I'm always trying to push myself as an artist to not only express how I feel at the moment, but also push my practice. Like I do weave in out of these, hyper realistic figures and faces to abstraction sometimes, I want to try new things. And I think that was the tapestry came from that space.
Thank you, Kalida. That was a great question, Tabitha. Thank you for that question. The next question is from an anonymous audience member who wonders if you can speak a little bit about the title, Away with the Tides.
Away with the Tides is something Maritza, the curator, and I went back and forth with, thinking of there was multiple reasons it kind of landed on Away with the Tides, thinking how tides are push and pull, and what happens, when a tide comes, the change that happens with the water, and thinking of what's happened to Overtown and the changes that took place. And just what happens in high tides and low tides. It was just like a play with the words. And that's how we got there.
I love that answer. Thank you, Kalida. I have a question for you. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about incorporating the maps into the works, and also like notably the works that don't have the maps. I loved the way the gallery talked about this, but I'd love to hear you speak about it and kind of how that lent itself to your process as well.
What did the gallery say about it? I want to know what they said. But no,
So
it's okay.
on the wall text at Perez, it talked a lot
Oh.
about, how um just how you were speaking to ideas of erasure when the map wasn't present, um,
Mhm.
and leaving blank space. But I would be curious at just how you would describe it and when you knew you wanted to put it in and when you felt it wasn't going to be there. I'm just really curious to hear from you about it directly.
Oh yeah. So that's right there. With the maps, I felt like I had printed out images with Magnolia, some of that paper too. They helped me get some of those printing for me. I got some archival uh, photos of Overtown before the highway was there, seeing all the houses, to when the highway came and the people were displaced. Um, and just looking at the row homes, and then I just like found a Google map of it, this aerial view. And I don't know, it's just like I wanted it to be seen and recognized. On the some of the paper pastels, I did pastel work with the background of the row homes. Um, it not only became just visually kind of like beautiful kind of pattern, I guess you could say, but I got to play with this broken figure on top. Um, and the city itself, the the urban planning itself stayed in my mind. Like in my studio, I printed up the highway itself, the city itself, thinking about the cross shape of the highway. So there's a lot of legs that are crossed, or body forms that are in a cross, but that's the highway shape that I kind of wanted to echo in the form. And then, yes, the community, 75,000 people that were displaced after the highway there, thinking of that as this vast empty space. There were once homes. And so then it became that white blank space. There's that image of Mr. Flowers, the man that we saw in the photos, where he's looking beyond like this with a red shirt and that white space, and, you know, looking out into, I don't know, like this blank space. And even though that's happened, it's like thinking of that, recognizing that that's happened, but also maybe that we can see further than that and do something about it. Maybe it's a way of hope. Maybe it's a way of like recognizing the past and trying to do better in the future. I don't know. All of those kind of things were all playing in my head. I guess it's like the same thing Allison was saying, like maybe we got to read Parable of the Sower. She told us what was happening. She wrote it in the 90s. We're living in it right now. Maybe we do need to read that to just know, you know, that understanding our past to know our future. You know, I don't know.
Thank you so much for that answer, Calida. I think the last question today is going to be from Magli. Magli, I'll pass the mic over to you.
Hi, Calida. Wonderful conversation. I was wondering about the reception of the show from the people in Miami, aside from people kind of saying that you made the water look more inviting, if you got any feedback from people in Miami.
I got wonderful feedback. It made me feel very warm and fuzzy. There was even like moments where some of the guards, which I want to go back and see, that were from Overtown. Like I had moments where I was crying and hugging them, that they felt seen and recognized. Guards in the museum itself working there. To people in the community, like they felt represented. I felt anyway, that I heard that they felt really good about it. And I had a great response. And I hope more people from the community got to see it. It's like this weird thing with museums in any city. A lot of times, museums get the same type of people there over and over. And then there's like, for some reason, these invisible walls of access to it, not knowing, you know, there's like that charge to go in, or all different things that maybe prevent people from going or thinking it's a space for them. And I felt some people in Overtown may not have thought of the museum as theirs. And there were people that are going that may not have gone otherwise, because we got like a call out about it. And so I felt really good with, you know, people going, you know, and I felt that they felt good from seeing it. And I was happy about that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question, Magli, and for that answer, Kalita. We had one more question come in, and I want to make sure that we ask this one as well. Ayana, I'll give you the chance to unmute if you'd like to ask directly.
Sure. Hi. Thank you so much. I was able to join on the whim. A friend was like, "You should listen to this," and my friend was right. So thank you. I was just curious if you touched on in your discussion about freeways in the Black community and how it was intentionally disruptive. You're touched on or aware of the connection with the U.S. military, and I learned it in like deep Black church in Atlanta with Dr. Joseph E. Lowry as my minister. But I just thought I would see what you could share about that, or if I could even offer it if you don't know it.
I don't know about this relationship with the military. I did talk about the Federal Highway Act of Eisenhower and what they went, you know, going into the Black community, systematically displacing or disrupting a lot of communities of color. But I don't know what you're I want to hear. Tell me. Oh, wait, I can't hear her. Can you
Yeah, I
hear?
think you're muted, Ayana.
Good.
I'm also very excited to learn this, so thank you for.
Yeah. Oh, no, I can't hear you. Oh, wait. It's getting better.
I'm back.
Okay, good.
I'm back. I promise. Shoot. I'm back. Is that better?
Yes.
All good? Okay, great. Okay. Um, Dr. Lowry co-founded the SCLC with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And in a sermon once, he mentioned that the freeways initiated as a way for the military to get to Black communities to shut things down. In a nutshell, that was why it was brought into the picture. And that always just stuck with me. And I'm just learning now with you how many cities that happened in, because I only thought it mattered in Atlanta, but that's not true.
It was everywhere. Chicago.
So
yeah, Chicago,
just thought I would.
Detroit, LA. It was so many cities. If you go through and just see, it was everywhere.
Thank you. I will. It's just wonderful hearing you speak and sharing your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your incredible questions today. I think that's going to conclude our Q&A, but I'm going to pass it over to Calida, who's going to read a poem to close us out today.
Okay, I got a poem here from Toronto's poet laureate Dion Brand. The title of it, well, the poem came from their relationship to the visit of the Door of No Return. The poem is entitled Verso 55. I'll try to read it nice and slow. Yes, we are still alive, we said. And we have returned to thank them. You are still alive, they said. Yes, we are still alive. They looked at us like violet teas. They drank us. They said, you are still alive. We said, yes. Yes, we are still here. How lemon, they said, how blue, like fortune. We said, here we are. They said with wonder and admiration, you are still alive, like hydrogen, like oxygen.
Wow, that was so beautiful, Kalita. Thank you so much for reading that to close us out today. And thank you again so much to you and Allison for this beautiful dialogue on the occasion of Away with the Tides. If you happen to pass through Miami before early February, do please go see this show. It's really not one to miss. It's stunning and really wonderful to see the works in person. And I also want to give a huge shout out to the team at Lehman Maupin, especially McKenna and Adriana and Julie, who were so helpful in pulling everything together for today's event. I'd also like to thank the Terra Foundation for American Art, who sponsor this program, the New Social Environment, and make conversations like this one possible. They also support our archive, where this will be very soon on YouTube. The Rail has been free and independent for 24 years. A donation supports our work. You can do that at the link in the chat. And if you're free on Monday, we are hosting a screening of the film Amazing Grace from 2018, directed by Alan Elliott and Sydney Pollack. I've seen it. It's stunning. It's going to be a beautiful watch on Monday in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I encourage you to join us. And as is real tradition, we'll now turn on your microphones so that everyone can say hello and goodbye as you leave. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you, Kalita and Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Thank you.
Phenomenal.
Really, thanks
Bye-bye.
to
Thank you,
Natalie.
Allison.
Thank you. So great.
Bye-bye.
Cool
Thank
dialogue.
you, everybody. Take care.